which we live? Could it be the football team? Could it be athletics? Could it be, well, could it be religion? Today on Austin Faith Dialogue, we're going to talk about elements of religious life, such as hospitality and compassion. We invite you to stay with us on this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
This is Austin Faith Dialogue, a public affairs program discussing the important crossroad of religion in life, produced by Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KTBC TV. Austin Faith Dialogue highlights the interaction of the religious community with the social and cultural issues throughout our area. Now, today's edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
Austin is a great place to live, and on this program through the years we've talked about many of the elements that make it such a special place. And today we want to talk about a group of people who hold this community together by identifying with everyone in the community, particularly those who are weak, those who are hungry, those who are in need of support and help. And in the process, those individuals find a response given to them. And that's the interesting part of giving. Virginia Merrick is a breakfast coordinator for her home congregation. And Pastor Dino Hildebrandt is a local pastor here in the Austin community. He'll talk about what this program has meant to his people. And Dina Gilbert is a seminary intern who works with Foundation for the Homeless. Welcome to the three of you to Austin Faith Dialogue. Good to have you here.
Glad to be here, Carl.
During this time, we're going to talk about a particular work that goes on in this community that a certain segment knows about, such as breakfast ministry. And we're going to look at some videotape, and we're going to talk about how you have reached out and people you know have reached out to share kindness, compassion, hospitality to those who are hungry. So let's look at that tape of a group of people arriving at a particular location in our community, and maybe you can talk a little bit with me about that.
Sure.
Here we see the location, local congregation on Woodrow, standing there and speaking of love and compassion for people. And there comes the bus. Dina, does that bus look familiar to you?
It sure does. That's
The bus.
The bus.
The bus.
Supplied by the Foundation for the Homeless, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We've been doing this for about, I guess, 2 years now, and it's been a great success. We carry around the average of 50, 55 people every once a month on this Thursday that we normally take. Normally I go down and pick the bus up around 5:30, go to the Salvation Army, pick people up at 6 o'clock, and it's about a 30-minute drive with the bus we have from the Salvation Army up to this North Austin location. Normally we have them here each for about 45 minutes to an hour or so. They're real generous in helping us put up the tables, put the chairs, putting them all back in the proper storage area. And then we take them back down to the what they call the job corner, which is off First Street. And that's really unload about a quarter of the load there, and then we take the rest back down to the Salvation Army and drop it off. We're always real appreciative towards our stuff. You know, feeding them breakfast, and really grateful that we do this.
How did you get involved?
I guess about 2 years ago, my pastor knew that I had a commercial bus license. I drive a bus for a couple of other churches throughout Austin, taking kids on field trips for Redeemer Lutheran School and a couple of other churches throughout Austin. And so he knew that I had a commercial bus license and asked me if I would be willing one or two days a month driving the bus. And I said, sure, no problem at all.
You've been with us as we have relived some of the moments of caring and feeding and sharing life together with people in our community. As we were watching that, we were talking about the experience of being there. And Virginia, what do you see as you look at the faces of those people that you know and with whom you've shared this ministry since March of 1993?
For 2 years, we've been serving breakfast. And those of us who show up, we started coming at 5 o'clock in the morning, but we got so well organized that we decided we didn't have to come till 5:30. And we feel a very close relationship.
With your leadership, I know they'd be organized and they'd be there ready to go.
It's a very easy thing to do because everybody has a job that they enjoy doing and they do their job without prompting, or it goes very well.
As I understand, Gina, you said before the program started that a group of people got together in the north central corridor of our city and said, we need to be doing something.
Right.
And initially, tell us the story. What happened?
Early on, Cindy Meek and some of the folks with the North Central Caregivers, which is a group of people who help elderly and others who are homebound get rides and other things, other services, places. Cindy got together with a number of pastors with whom she had already had some involvement and said, I hear you guys all saying basically the same thing. You feel isolated, and the problem of poverty-stricken people and people that are destitute in your area is larger than you can handle as a single church. Why don't you guys get together and do something about it? It's really Cindy's got after us.
A prophetess amongst
right,
us.
she did. And so in the summer, I guess, of '93, we began to meet at one of the congregations in the north central area and kind of began to get to know one another, published a directory of the various benevolent services our churches were doing, got to know one another. But after a while, the group began to struggle. There was no central focus, no program or project that was pulling us together. And several of the people in coordination with the Foundation for the Homeless suggested, well, why don't we do a breakfast program, a morning breakfast, just like the people were doing on the south side with the Foundation for the Homeless. And that would be 2 breakfasts a week rather than 1 a week that are very healthy.
So the model then was something that was already being done in the community, is that right?
Already being done successfully.
Okay.
And the Foundation for the Homeless, some of Dina's predecessors came and offered to train us and give us expertise and insight. And as a group of congregations, we all said, hey, it's something we think we can pull off.
So people watching Austin Faith Dialogue who'd want to do something like this could say, well, we could model
Right.
that which that North Central Corridor group is doing. If they wanted to, could they come to the foundation and get guidance there, Dina? Would that be a possibility?
Sure. We have originally started this breakfast ministry with a network of churches, as Gino said, on the southwest side of the city. And we have that breakfast on Tuesday mornings, and it's sponsored by a group of churches in that area. And then later, the Thursday breakfast began and is sponsored on the north central area at Faith Lutheran Church. We are welcoming churches to come in and form their own networks so that we would have a breakfast network for every day of the week. We would love to be able to serve breakfast in a variety of area churches every day of the week, if possible.
So this could be duplicated by other congregations in other parts of the community.
Sure.
Dina, as a pastor, what has it meant to you to have this happen and see your congregation? You mentioned there was a struggle at first, trying to find a focus for the expression of the faith.
Right. The struggle was really with the North Central Austin group of churches to focus us as a group of, you know, we really do go across denominational lines on what we would do together and feel comfortable doing together. Within my own particular congregation, what it did for us is there are about a dozen people that are highly committed to the breakfast like Virginia is at your congregation. And that has given them an outlet for their expression of faith, kind of putting feet to their faith.
You mentioned something earlier that sometimes we feel frustrated. We see people in need.
Right.
We want to do something. This provides then from your pastoral chair in your congregation an opportunity, an avenue for your congregation?
Well, what I think has happened is that people are a bit frustrated and find it difficult when they see on the news something like the problem of homelessness. They feel like very helpless in the face of a large problem. And this gives us as a congregation an outlet to begin to do something positively in our community, and I think that's been very helpful to us.
One of the things that I remember in attending an orientation session was that they talked about the food, what should be fed. And Virginia, you remember that orientation? They really had, this is a good breakfast that you all feed these people, and if they're getting there at 5:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, they're going to prepare a good breakfast, and we saw in the video some of it. Maybe you could tell us a little bit. Not that we want everybody to come and eat, you see. We're not going to feed the community. But it is a good breakfast. And it's all done free because your congregation puts money in. Is that right, Gino?
That's right.
And other congregations?
That's correct.
Tell us about the breakfast. What do you feed them?
Well, we were told in the beginning that we should always have protein and always have fresh fruit. So our particular breakfast has been the same menu from the beginning. We have sausage links, scrambled eggs, hash brown potatoes, bread, fresh fruit, orange juice, milk, and coffee.
Our breakfast is very similar, almost exactly the same menu. We do occasionally do gravy and that sort of thing, the biscuits, but it's basically the same thing. One of the keys for me was we want to feed a breakfast that we would be very pleased to eat. And if there's food, if there are not enough guests and there's food left over, we all sit down and partake and eat with our homeless guests, and so that we are taking breakfast together. That's the idea. We're not here to just give you a handout. We're here to have breakfast with you, and that's really the idea.
Gina, I think that's a great idea, because this whole theme of hospitality and interaction with one another. This morning, as I was watching, I saw, Dina, you go over and sit down and talk to these people. And what do you experience when you go and visit with the folks who are there? What do you give, and maybe what do you get back in that conversation?
Well, because I'm director of both the breakfast networks, I'm at the Tuesday breakfasts and the Thursday breakfasts, and many of the people that come to the breakfasts do come for the hospitality that's offered. They say, y'all serve the best breakfast,
Right.
but we also like to come and visit with you.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for me to participate with people on a human level, to recognize that, you know, we're all in this together, and my problems might be reflected in you sometimes, and vice versa. And so to be able to come into conversation with each other and think about those issues together and look for options together is a real important aspect for me of the breakfasts, I think.
I'd like to talk more with you later in the program about what this means for you in terms of ministry in the future, and how it might be something that you can grow from as you look forward to your future in ministry. Virginia, what about you? As you go around, you're kind of scurrying around and getting people to sign in and making sure you're quarterback of that experience, and
I'm
watching
the crew chief.
Okay, crew chief. I like quarterback, but that's okay, crew chief. What do you experience as you see the people arrive and you have the opportunity not only to relate to those who are doing the providing, but those who come to receive?
Well, it's a great feeling. They're all kind, friendly people. I haven't had a bad experience. You know, we're their hosts and we're welcoming them. It's exciting when that bus drives up, because we're all ready for them and we're just waiting. It's great.
I like the idea of story, because I think everybody has the story, and that's what you're doing, the three of you, by giving time to us in Austin Faith Dialogue. You're opening up your story to those who are watching this program throughout the Austin community. And what you're saying to those people who watch today, this has been important to me in my faith walk. And this is what I've discovered in giving and serving, because certainly the biblical mandate is there to care for one another. Gino, as a pastor being there, what have you experienced?
Well, it's a joy, as I spoke earlier, to see people that I participate with in the faith, serving and participating in helping other people. But as Dina spoke, I have gotten to know a few of the mainly the guys that come. We play a little basketball.
Good.
We do that some. And, there's just an interchange on a level of humanity. I think frequently what happens with homeless people is that, because it's an overwhelming problem, or at least it certainly appears that way in our media, we tend to dehumanize, certainly depersonalize human people, homeless people. But in this setting, we have an opportunity to interact with them just as people, and it's been a tremendous thing.
Let's talk more about that when we come back, but right now we're going to take a break for a message from Austin Metropolitan Ministries. Stay with us on Austin Faith Dialogue as we talk about breakfast ministry.
Serving Austin means serving you. That has always been the primary goal of Austin Metropolitan Ministries. We are religion in action through the work of these organizations. Each plays a key role in making the capital city a better place to live, but we can't do it alone. Do you have some spare time, talents, or any resources that you can share? If you do, please call AMM at 472-7627, because serving Austin means serving you.
Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue. We've been talking about breakfast ministry and how two groups in our Austin community, a group of congregations in southwest Austin and a group of congregations in what they call a north central corridor, have been seeking ways to reach out to a group of people who are homeless and sharing a breakfast with them on Thursday mornings. And we have with us three of our guests who are active participants in the ministry of this program. We were talking before we took the break about how this program brings you face to face with people who are homeless. You know, those kind of labels on people, that's a tough thing to go around labeling people, but we do that so much. But Dino, you mentioned a little bit about basketball, and I've enjoyed doing that too, and getting out there and shooting some hoops, and I think that does something. Matter of fact, we have a basketball program in our particular congregation, and some of the guys who played basketball with me when they were kids have come to that breakfast, and we've had a chance to see each other after a lapsed time of a few years. In that interaction, you mentioned it brings you face to face with people as people.
Right. Well, what it causes, at least me, and I think most all the rest of us to do, is to no longer look at a homeless person and just put the tag, well, that's a homeless person, or, you know, or another word that may, in some people's vocabulary, be a pejorative. But it's as a human being, and it's Bob or Bill or Jim or Joe or whatever name. We do give name tags, ask everybody to wear a name tag, first name, so that we're on a first name basis, and it's an informal and very humanized. It's the only way I can articulate it. Very human level of interaction, and I think that's what our guests appreciate about that.
Dina, do you think that this is kind of a Band-Aid approach to the homeless issue? My first reaction was when I heard about, well, okay, we're going to do this, we'll be a bunch of do-good Christian type people, and that's not enough. But what about that? Is it a Band-Aid approach, or is this the beginning of something more, do you think?
Well, sometimes I feel that it is. Sometimes I get discouraged with that aspect of it. But what we're doing to start with is serving basic human need, and that is to say, what is the bottom line here? Where can we begin? And from that, broaden out and look at more long-term options and solutions together. I think one of the most important aspects of what this group of churches and individuals that come together to sponsor the breakfast have learned or are learning is what it means for them. Each of us that come probably gain much more from the experience than the simple act of food that we pass out on a given morning. And so for me, that's exciting, that there's a balance both ways. Our guests come and receive, and we also, in giving, receive and
but
grow our faith.
But there's not any attempt to proselyte these people. There's no attempt to push religion on them and do that type of thing, right?
Well, I think, no, there's not. But in speaking with people, in being with people, in serving people, we live out our faith. This is faith in action. And so, you know, modeling after our greatest model, Jesus Christ, and saying, we are here, we are present, let's participate together, is central to the way this program functions.
Sure. Virginia was saying before the program started, those words, I was hungry and you fed me. It's pretty clear and obvious that in all the great religions of the world, but particularly those of us who are part of the Christian family of faith, that word, that invitation is there to feed spiritually, but also to take care of physical needs. We talked about individuals and looking at that video, seeing the faces of people that are serving individuals, but also there's a congregational networking, I think is the word you used, Dina. This congregation, some might say, well, we're too small a congregation, we can't do this by ourselves. But you faced that issue, didn't you? And how did you go about dealing with the fact that maybe an individual congregation doesn't want to take this on, but how can they do that?
When we initially organized, there were several large congregations that said, we will do one a month. And those of us that were smaller congregations just looked at one another, pastors and lay people across there, and said, well, I'll do it with you on that day. And so there are three congregations on our particular Thursday morning that are together. And a benefit of that is I've gotten to know those other ministers and lay people very well, and we're friends. And we've done a couple of other projects together now, and I no longer, as a pastor, and I think our congregation, we no longer feel isolated. And the things that we're involved in as a congregation, it sort of naturally spills over, and they say, oh, you're doing that? Well, that's interesting. I didn't know much about it. And there's a good bit of cooperation there.
Dina mentioned faith in action. It's also ecumenical action,
Yes,
isn't it,
that's
that you
correct.
find, because the
Across
three
lines.
congregations that you're a part of come from three traditions within Christendom, is that right?
That's correct. 3 different denominational groups, actually. So it's fun. We again see each other as Christians walking together to do something that we can agree on. So
I think that's a good word. It's fun. Ministry can
It
be
is
fun
fun.
and
That's
sharing
right.
together. Virginia, what about your experience with another congregation in the Austin community?
Well, our congregation is a larger congregation, but there's a very small congregation that meets just across the street from us. So they asked if they could serve with us, and it's been a great relationship. And like Gino said, it just builds so much community spirit.
It does.
And you know, you've mentioned hospitality, the word hospitality, several times. And I keep thinking of a scripture from Romans. It says to take care of God's people in need, practice hospitality. And that's what we're trying to do.
That's right.
But on the other hand, I can't tell you how many times a breakfast guest has come through the line and said to me, God bless you. So I get a lot of blessing.
Another thing that's interesting about the program is that, or at least our breakfast, is there are spiritual needs that people come into the breakfast with. One of the things that we do at ours, and I'm not sure what happens at the other breakfasts, we're once a month, is one of our servers is very faithful to say, if you have a need you would like for our congregations to hold up in prayer, here's a basket, here's some pieces of paper, just fill it out, and we'll get 15 to 20 to 25 slips of paper. Please pray for me for this issue. And then we take it back and distribute those among our congregations. And there's simple things like that where we touch one another, I think, fairly significantly on a human level.
Dina, what about that from the point of view of how the various breakfast groups do this? Do they all pray? Do they all share Bible readings? Or how do they do that?
I think the commonality is that we all say grace. And each group does things differently, sometimes a little differently, sometimes they have another plan that's much different from a given group. Each group serves their own menu, so the food changes, the volunteers change because we have a rotating schedule of churches involved. And like Gina was saying, you know, some groups have a prayer basket, some groups provide Bibles, and if people want to take those with them, they're welcome to take them. Sometimes we provide clothing and toiletries, necessary items, things that have been donated that people can take with them again. So it has a little personal flavor, I guess,
it does.
with each
It becomes
group that
a little
comes
bit
in.
personalized. In fact, we've found it very difficult to keep Bibles. They go very quickly, Bibles and other kinds of materials that can be used.
Does your breakfast group hand out Bibles, Gina?
Well, we do, and we can get them.
Yeah.
But we don't always have them to give out. But when we get a source, we normally run out fairly quickly.
Virginia,
Well,
how
we
about
do
your
too.
group?
Yes, we have Bibles, and we also have devotional booklets available.
I had to laugh this morning, and it happens every time. We have one particular man who is so faithful, but he went out to the bus this morning, he came running back in to the breakfast area and said, boy, I've been giving away lots of these, and he was talking about the devotionals. And he said, I'm going to go back and get some more and see if I can sell a few more. He was going to share that devotional. And these are devotionals that have been used by people, been brought back to the church, and given away again, so they can be recycled and utilized for other people. What do you see from the Foundation for the Homeless point of view? What do you see this doing for the community, Dina? What do you think, how is Austin being benefited? Let me just expand a little bit. I think that there has to be something that holds the community together, as we said at the beginning of the program. And it seems to me there needs to be a mythology, if you will, that holds not only a community, but even a nation together. And I'm wondering if activities like these, if this isn't what really keeps a community together and brings the blessings of God upon the entire community. Now, that's just me, but what do you think?
I think indeed that is one of the best things that comes out of efforts like this, that are cooperative efforts where people see a need and say, what can we do? And it's not just what can I do, because as individuals, we don't often feel very powerful. We feel powerless oftentimes in the face of such great need. But when we start talking with each other, coming together as community, then not only can we better identify the needs among us, but we can better identify ways to work at solving those and offering our participation in that. It's exciting to have availability of something like this that you can participate in, and in that find hope, feel more powerful, and you know, feel like maybe these problems aren't completely insurmountable.
Offering the power of your faith. Do you know?
I was just going to add on to that. One of the things that it's done for us is we are not a large congregation, but we are doing something. And it gives us hope and an attitude that, well, we've done this little bit, and for us it's been a successful thing. Maybe we can do something else. Maybe there is another area or more in terms of the problem of homelessness in our community that we can tackle as a group of people.
Let me ask you this,
And
Gina.
that's
What if it hadn't been successful? What if it had been a failure? What would that have been?
Well, I have no idea how to answer that question.
Well, I hope you will.
Okay.
You know, because I think one of the things that is here is because you were stubborn enough to hang in there.
Yeah, that's
when there
true.
was a lack of focus, you guys didn't give up, and that's a sign of faith too, that you hang in there.
Yeah, that's true.
Sound like a football coach.
Hey,
Don't get
that's
stuff,
right,
you know
yeah,
that.
quarterback
But there
role,
is
yeah.
some of that kind of stuff that you don't give up, and as people of faith, so often we base things on, well, this is successful and this is not successful, and we're, you know, you have to hang in there. Don't give up, and this has been successful.
Yeah, that's true.
Virginia, how about for you?
What was the question?
That's very good. What has it meant for you in terms of continuing this? Is it something that you think your group will want to continue?
Yes, I definitely think my group would want to continue. Everybody involved from our church is very dedicated to this program, and whereas you might feel powerless, this does give them a sense of power. I mean, to get up at 4:30, as some of us do on one Thursday morning a month, and it's something we look forward to and that we're excited about and that we love doing, and it makes us feel like we have something to contribute. So yeah, we would definitely want to continue.
You all have really shared some insight with our Austin Faith Dialogue viewing audience, and we really appreciate it. And it'd be our wish and hope and prayer that wherever you are led, you might continue to do that which you believe is God's will in your lives. And I think for you watching Austin Faith Dialogue, it says to you that we can have ownership of our community, that we can not only demonstrate hospitality and compassion and concern for one another, but we can say we own this community. We're alive by the grace of God, and that we share this time together. And we hope that you have been motivated by this program to look into the possibility of contacting
For more
the Foundation
information,
for the
call
Homeless,
Austin Metro.
or maybe speaking to one of these other guests and saying that you want to be a part of making a difference. Thanks so much for watching Austin Faith Dialogue, and blessings be to you wherever you are in your ministry given by God.